All right, so let's get started. So aligning your branding with your marketing. So in this presentation, you're going to learn the following. We're going to talk about the difference between branding and marketing and how they are connected. Let me see. You're going to learn why you can't really have one without the other. We're going to talk about how leveraging the power of your brand can drive bigger results in your marketing and sales efforts. You're going to learn how to tell if your branding is aligned with your marketing efforts or not, so that way you can really ensure that everything is aligned. And I'm also going to provide you with like other creative ways that you can really align your branding with your marketing. So let's get started. So branding versus marketing. So the one way to put it is branding and marketing, they're kind of like brothers. Or you can also say they're kind of like sisters. So like which one of you has maybe a sibling from when you were younger? So if you can relate, and you might have a sibling that you were often confused with or compared to when you were younger. So maybe people thought you were your brother or your sister. So that's the similar case with branding and marketing. So a lot of times, like we talk about one thing, but we actually mean the other. So branding and marketing, they're both related, but they're actually kind of different. So some people see them as completely different, while some people see them as intertwined. So what's the difference between branding and marketing? So let's dive into the difference between the two of them. So branding on one hand, so branding is more focused on shaping the perception and the feelings that people have about you, your business, or your organization. So that's pretty much what it's all about in a nutshell. So it's about shaping perceptions and shaping feelings. And also like it's more focused on like creating positive associations, emotions, and experiences. Because a lot of times we're driven by emotions and the associations that we have. So branding is more focused on shaping these associations and these emotions that people have so that they feel more positively about what we're doing, about our businesses or organizations. So ultimately, the goal of branding is just to foster a relationship and build a legacy. So for example, if you have a brand that you often buy from all the time, that's a relationship that you have with that brand in which, maybe you're following your content, you're buying your offers. So it's a relationship. So the goal of branding is to build that relationship. And also, if you're a business owner or a founder, then the goal is to build a legacy. So it's a longer term thing. So one example is personal branding. So for example, if you have a personal brand, I mean, that people already know, like, and trust, then they're more likely to support you. They're more likely to, take on whatever offer you're putting out. They're more likely to do business with you because you have that personal brand and you have that credibility. So that's one example of branding right there. And then marketing, on the other hand, so marketing is more about reaching more people and creating that interest that leads to actions. So reaching more people and creating interest that leads to actions. So marketing is more focused on like promoting, persuading, or trying to convince people to take action. So for example, if you need people to buy from you, or if you need them to vote, or if you need them to subscribe or just donate. So these are all examples of actions that marketing, is focused on helping you to accomplish. So it's more focused on that action, getting people to take action and really getting the word out. So ultimately, the goal of marketing is usually more awareness and more transactions. So more awareness or more transactions. So one example is outbound marketing. So I don't know if you've heard of outbound marketing. So outbound marketing refers to like when you're trying to reach your customers where they are. So you're trying to reach out to your customers and, create more awareness about what you're offering. So for example, if you're a telemarketer or if you're running a Facebook ad, these are all examples of outbound marketing. So yeah. So if you're still not clear about the relationship between the two, so one analogy for you to really understand is Marketing is the instrument, but branding is the melody. So marketing is the instrument, but branding is the melody. So your marketing is more like, it's more like a mechanism that you use to get the word out. It's more like a system or a funnel. So it's just an instrument that you use to get the word out. So it's the system that you have in place. But your branding, on the other hand, is more of the melody. It's the essence. It's the aura that you put out that attracts people to you. So marketing is the instrument, but branding is the melody. So if you have a really nice instrument, but the melody is terrible, then you might really get the sound out. A lot of people may hear it, but they might not like it, or they might not stick around very long. And at the same time, if you have a really nice melody, but you have no instrument to get it out there, then no one is going to hear your melody. So marketing is the instrument, but branding is the melody. So yeah. All right, so what happens if you only focus on marketing and disregard branding? So what happens is your business, it might get more exposure, but it probably won't stick. So when I say it won't stick, what I mean is, they might not stick around very long, or it might not get that level of engagement that you're looking for. So it might get more exposure, more people might hear about it, but they probably won't remember it, or they're not going to stick around very long. And also, it would be harder to compete with all the noise that's in your industry. So think about all the hundreds, if not thousands, of competitors that are out there. So your customers, like on a daily basis, they're constantly being bombarded with so many different advertisements, and you're trying to compete with all that noise, like in their busy everyday life. So your brand is what makes it much easier for you to stand out, for your offers to stand out from all the other options. So if you only focus on marketing, but you disregard branding, then, your voice might get out there, but it'll probably get drowned in all the noise that's out there as well. And also your business, like, it might not be seen as credible or trustworthy. So your brand is what creates that sense of trust in your business. So if you don't have a brand, then you might get the word out, but you're not gonna have that level of trust and credibility that you're looking for. And also, like, a lot of times customers, they develop these false perceptions about your business. So branding is ultimately about shaping perceptions. So if you don't shape the perceptions that people have, then they would develop their own false perceptions. They might not even be true. So customers, they develop these false perceptions. So maybe they've had experiences with similar offers, similar service providers. So if you don't have a strong brand, then it's really easy for them to perceive you as just like everybody else. And also, like, it would be nearly impossible to compete with others who have cheaper options. So your brand is what makes it easier for you to compete, even though there might be cheaper options, right? So if you have a strong brand, then your customers, they're more likely to choose you, even though there might be cheaper options that are out there. So if you only focus on marketing, but you disregard branding, then it'll be harder to compete with the cheaper options, because your brand is what makes them choose your offer, even though there might be cheaper options. And also, it might be harder to raise the price. So that's what makes it easier for brands to charge a little bit more than others, because they have that level of credibility and they're able to stand out more than others. And also, your business may not be seen as authentic. So what separates great brands from everybody else, is that they're always seen as authentic. So they're always seen as more authentic than everybody else. So if you only focus on marketing but disregard branding, then it'll be hard to have that sense of authenticity that really attracts people to you. So yeah. So my question to you is your branding aligned with your marketing? Or is your branding aligned with your marketing and sales? So how can you really tell? So your branding is not aligned with your marketing if, for example, your marketing materials look inconsistent. So take a moment to take a look at, like, your marketing materials. So you might be using direct mail, or you might have different brochures, you might have business cards. You might have different flyers. So there has to be that consistency that flows through everything. So people, they should be able to recognize your brand from a distance, because recognition builds trust. So if you have that, if you're very consistent in your marketing materials, then they would have a stronger sense of trust. And that's gonna make your marketing more effective, because more people would trust you and they're more likely to do business with you. So the more often people see your offer and the more consistent it looks, then that would really help to strengthen your brand in your minds. Another way to tell if your branding isn't aligned with your marketing is if, for example, you don't have a well-defined target audience. So when I talk about having a well-defined target audience, I'm not only just talking about the demographics, I'm talking about like going into more details. So for example, what are some of their challenges that they're facing? What are some of their aspirations and their goals? And how does your message really tie in with that? And what's your worldview like? Another way to tell if your branding isn't aligned with your marketing is if, for example, you're only focused on the transaction instead of the entire journey. So a lot of times, some people, they might only focus on the transaction, but in reality, customers, they go through an entire journey to become your customer. So what happens before and what happens after? So when you have a better understanding of the entire journey, you're able to really tailor that journey so that it's really unique to your brand. So from when they browse your website to when they read a blog article, everything needs to be really tailored to your brand. And also, another way to really tell if your branding isn't aligned with your marketing is if you keep competing based on pricing and getting underbid. So if you find it hard to compete because of cheaper options, then it means that your branding isn't aligned with your marketing, because having a strong brand, that's what makes people choose your option, even though there might be other options. So for example, if you're selling a product, for example, let's say it's a shoe. So when people see a shoe that has a Nike swoosh on it, they're more likely to buy that product because of that sense of trust that they have and that perception that they have because it's a strong brand. So they're more likely to take on that offer, even though it might be more expensive. So when you have a strong brand, you're able to raise your prices, and you could even compete with, even the cheapest options. So yeah. Another way to really tell if your branding isn't aligned with your marketing is if your marketing copy is too generic. So take a moment to look at your marketing copy. So for example, you might have a website, or you might have different brochures, or you might have different flyers. Take a moment to look at your copy. So does it sound so much like everybody else? Are you using concepts and terms that everyone else is using? So for example, if you replace the name on your advertisements and the logo with somebody else, would it still make sense? Are you still saying things that could apply to anyone? So if your marketing copy is too generic, it means that your branding isn't aligned with your marketing, because your marketing, it needs to be specifically tailored to your brand, and it needs to fit your specific tone of voice, and it needs to fit your brand's unique qualities. It needs to really express your brand's unique qualities, and your brand needs to really convey its message in a way that's really different from all the other options. So how can you really tell if your branding is not aligned with your marketing? If your marketing materials look inconsistent, if you don't have a well-defined target audience, if you're only focusing on the transaction, if you find it hard to compete because of prices, or if your marketing copy is too generic. So yeah. So how can you really leverage the power of branding to drive bigger results in your marketing and sales efforts? How can you leverage the power of branding? So here are some helpful tips for you, even if no one knows who you are. So one way to really leverage the power of branding to drive bigger results is to align your marketing messages with your customer's story. So your customers, they have a certain story in their mind. There's a journey that they go through. So they have certain worldviews, they have certain pain points, they have certain aspirations. So if you can really align your marketing messages with your customer's story, then that would really increase the impact of your brand and drive bigger results in your marketing because you're able to connect with them at a higher level. And also, there has to be a core theme that runs through all your marketing. So what is the core theme that runs through all your marketing? What is the core message? What's your brand all about? So there has to be a core message or a core theme that runs through everything, that ties everything together. And that theme needs to really be, it needs to really attract your ideal customers, right? It needs to be really tailored to your brand. And that when you have that core theme, you're able to really strengthen your brand over time. And over time, it would continue to attract more and more of the right people. And also just by collaboration, so just by collaborating with others who speak to the same audience as you, or by collaborating with others who share the same vision, you can leverage the power of both of your brands to drive bigger results. So even just by collaborating with people that your customers already trust. So by collaborating with people that your ideal customers already know, like, and trust, they can feel the same way about your brand as well. And also, it's really important to go beyond the logo because a lot of people, they approach the logo as kind of like a sticker that goes in the corner of a website. So it's not just about the logo, it's more about how your brand is being presented, and it has to be held at a higher standard, and it has to look authentic. So what separates successful brands from everybody else is that they always have a really effective approach to design and messaging. So by looking at successful brands in your industry, you can probably learn a lot from them and from what they're doing. And don't forget to just stay authentic because the world needs more authenticity. So yeah, so that's how you can really leverage the power of branding to drive bigger results. By really aligning your messages with your customer story, by having a central theme that runs through all your marketing, by collaborating with others that share the same vision and that speak to the same audience, by going beyond just the logo, right? And by being authentic in everything that you do. And you would see it, and you would see that your marketing messages would really stand out and they would really shine, a lot more than the others. So yeah. Here are some other creative ways that you can really align your branding with your marketing. So my question to you is, do you have a premium branded service offering? So you might be familiar with company branding or product branding or personal branding, but you can actually brand a specific service. You can actually build a brand around a specific service. So take a moment and think about it. Like, what's your most valuable service offering right now? What's the biggest outcome that you're able to provide for your customers? What's your most valuable service offering? And once you figure out what it is, the next step is to ask, like, who is the ideal prospect that would benefit the most? Who can I really target with this offer? And when you figure out who it is, you can actually give the offer a really nice name. It can have its own logo. You can actually build a landing page around that offer or a sales funnel around that offer so that everything is really precise and everything is really tailored. So this is really effective if, for example, you have some kind of program. So let's say you're a coach. You can actually build a brand around a specific service, just like your premium offering. And you can actually create bundles. You can actually have a social media page just for a specific service. So instead of just selling generic services, you can actually brand your service so that it's a lot more different from all the other options. So by really aligning your brand with the way you market a service, you can drive bigger results. And also, like, how can you really create a tribe around your offer? So the way people think is we naturally gravitate towards people that share the same lifestyle as we do. So we like to be around people who share the same lifestyle, the same beliefs, or the same worldview. So when you're really clear about your target audience, you can actually create a tribe around your offer that really attracts people. And also, just by publishing, that's another way for you to really align your branding with your marketing. So, for example, if you're an expert and you release a book, then you're going to be seen as more credible. You're going to be seen as more trustworthy because you've written about that topic. So just by publishing a book, you could really align your brand with your marketing. And when customers read your book, it's kind of like having a warm conversation with you. So when customers read your book, they can get to know you a little bit more. They can try to understand how you think and what you're really like. So it's a way for them to really connect with you at a higher level. It doesn't even have to be a really large book. It could just be something a little bit smaller. So yeah, so that's how you can really align your branding with your marketing. By having a premium branded service offering, you can create a tribe around your offer, or you could even do it through publishing. So yeah, so my question to you is your branding really aligned with your marketing and sales? So you might think it is, but a lot of times it might not be as much as you may think. So yeah, let's dive into the Q&A. All right, so does any of you have any questions? And I'll be happy to, just feel free to put your hand up. Let me see who. All right, so we have Freedom. I hope I pronounced your name right. And Saroma Lee. Freedom, feel free to ask your question.
Yes, she did. My question is, is there a way to, I have good branding, but what we do is not the standard thing. So that, we're an umbrella nonprofit. And so as a nonprofit, it's a different kind of story when it comes to that. Is there any way to help me understand branding in terms of drawing investors or drawing funders, as opposed to branding to sell a product? Because I'm getting the feeling that the branding you're talking about is, and marketing you're talking about, is for a specific product or service. But branding to draw, selling tickets to events, to utilize for marketing, for funding, for donations, for things that a nonprofit would be looking to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Volunteers even, for getting volunteers. For getting volunteers even, because that's an important part of what we're working to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of the points that I mentioned were for businesses, but some of them can also apply to nonprofits as well. So for example, when I spoke about like partnerships, so by partnering with people, you can actually attract like more more attention to your cause by partnering with people who have a certain reputation in the community, or people that your target audience is already listening to. You know what I mean? So a lot of nonprofits, they sometimes partner with like other people in the local community, and they're able to use that to really leverage that network, to get bigger results on your fundraising efforts. So is that something that you've considered, or?
It is. I mean, I've been trying to do that with my website and on my website, and branding each event that I do. We work with programs, events, and projects. So we have all three, and we take in programs, events, and projects, and we also create within the organization programs, events, and projects. And we try to keep a branding on each one, but it's a little bit difficult. It's a little more difficult, especially when you have the choices of marketing and so forth and so on. It gets to be confusing. And so I've been unable to really make that jump to be more effective. Like when we're advertising a particular program, it's difficult to make that jump.
Okay.
To market in a way that will attract people to the program, that has its own platform, that's online, in a really succinct way. So I'm not getting as much bang for my buck or my time as I would like to. So I just like a little guidance on that.
It's Claudia. Let me see if I can help answer her question.
Sure.
Freedom, I'm on 3 boards right now. And I've been on boards for universities and colleges and many nonprofits. Here's the thing. You have to recognize that within your community, wherever you have this nonprofit, what is it that you bring to the table that nobody else is bringing? What is it that the community is going to take away from it? Because you're right, nonprofits is a whole different dog. And I am not an expert on it, but being on the board, it allows me to start thinking differently. And as I was listening to you, I'm starting to think, for example, last week I was at a nonprofit event for a board, and I invited another nonprofit leader to join the event or come to the event. This is the second event she has come to, which she doesn't have to, but they're a mere 15 minutes apart from each other. And they are serving, in this case, the African-American community. So my thinking has always been, one, if they work with each other, leverage with each other, their goals are not the same, so they're not competing with each other. And if they get to know similar or some of the same people within that community, be it that there's maybe 10, 15 cities that are, you nod your head and you went from one to the other, then they can actually somehow coexist together in a better way. And when it comes to writing the grants, you're going to need to have a good grant writer, bottom line. And you're going to need
I'm already
to have
a good grant writer. So grant
well, then
writing
that's
is
awesome.
issue. I mean, but I'm having issues with my branding and my marketing.
Right.
You know,
But
yeah.
I just gave you
Hey,
2
Freedom.
tips. I gave you
you
2
wanna-
tips to help you right there. And you're a grant writer, so that's great. Many times nonprofits, their grant writers suck. Okay. And I'm saying that in the nicest way.
Okay.
So if you're good and you're getting money, then you have half the battle gone. The other battle is collaboration with other nonprofits. 3, community leaders. They've got to know you and you've got to know them. And again, you're not competing for them because they're community leaders for everybody. And if you're serving whoever you're serving, that's the other part. Each group that you're serving has organizations that they're members of. So if they can then know about you and they're starting to tell other people about your organization, it's almost like a runaway train at that point. But it's that risk taking that you have to weigh the pros and cons and determine, do I look like what I'm saying? Does the paperwork I put out look like what I'm saying? Am I living the value of what I'm saying? Again, all the things that Eddie just said actually answers a whole lot of questions for you. So it's aligning those different things. I don't know if it's Katie that wanted to say something or not. Her name is it's Yvette. Yvette knows this stuff too, actually. I know who Yvette is. Hi,
Yeah.
Yvette.
Yvette, would you like to?
Yeah, I just wanted to say for 2 seconds to the young lady that's calling in. And Eddie, just sit back for a second. I want you to contact Eddie. There is a difference with nonprofits. I work with churches. Better Godparents work with churches primarily, and some schools. But there's a difference in when you're trying to engage people digitally for nonprofit in the nonprofit sector. And the idea, the reason I want you to contact Eddie is because he's not going to say this to you guys, but he is a master at creating an emotion, capturing emotion
Yes, he
And
is.
having people feel that in your text, in your copy, having people feel that on your website, having people feel that in your social media platforms, and having you feel it consistently, the same thing all the time. Getting that message across. He is a master at that. So I hear you. Dr. Claudia hears you, but I want you to sit down with Eddie just for a few minutes. And I know Eddie will never toot his own horn. He's so humble. I love that about him. But he's excellent at helping you create copy, create messaging, create communications, create marketing vehicles through those things. That will create a feeling. And that's what you need in the nonprofit sector. That's what you have to have. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for your input. I actually have a blog post where I talk about the different resources that are available to nonprofits. So I'll probably send it to you.
Okay, I'd appreciate that very much. I did put my info in the chat.
All
And
right, great.
so then you'd have a chance to look at my my branding, and look at the website and what I do with the branding. But what my nonprofit does is rather unusual because it's umbrella nonprofit. So I don't want to monopolize any more time, but I'll definitely get your contact, Eddie, and talk to you. And thank you to everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to hear from you. All right, so who would like to go next? I see Caddy Johnson.
It's actually Katie.
Sorry about that.
No problem. I just wanted to say to Freedom that most nonprofit are typically affiliated with each other. They try and work with each other and promote each other. So, I mean, you have the contact. You have the platform and the people. I guess it's just how you need to lay it out, I guess. But you have the contact.
I'll work on it. Thank you all so much. I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So yeah, who would like to go next? I see Daryl Presley. Daryl S. Presley.
Thank you. And Eddie, this was excellent. Let me give you that prop off the break. This was excellent. My question is still along the same lines as the first question. Is there a is the strategy the same when you're trying to do your regular marketing versus trying to do marketing to attract, as the young lady was saying, not for nonprofit, for profits, if you're trying to attract venture capital, obtain and attract and obtain venture capital, is the strategy the same or is it different?
Well, fundamentally it is, but in terms of the execution, it's very different, if you know what I mean. So there are certain differences between the two. If you're trying to raise money versus if you're just maybe a local business who's trying to attract customers. So yeah, there are certain differences, and that would be an interesting topic to write about. So for example, if you're trying to raise, well, what they both have in common is that they both focus on like the target audience. So if you're trying to raise money, it's important to have like a clear picture in your mind of the kind of people, right, who would be willing to fund your, whether it's an initiative, like what are they like and what are they looking for, things like that. So once you're just clear about who you're talking to, then you're able to really connect with them at a higher level, and then that would really inform your overall strategy, if you know what I mean. So
well, just to take it a step further. So I was just watching something on Forbes online, and there was someone who was saying that there are venture capitalists, there are companies across the nation that are really promoting and trying to push major companies to invest in Black businesses. So the question is, if you have the opportunity to be before someone who's a venture capitalist, who is a major company that's looking to invest in Black businesses, is the marketing strategy the same as if you were just trying to get customers and clients? Is that strategy different?
Yeah, it's going to be different. Yeah, it'll have
some
similarities, but yeah, it will be different. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, both from how you find them to how you convince them.
Got it.
There are
Thank
certain differences. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so who would like to go next? I see Sunday Miller. Sunday Miller?
Hi.
Oh,
Yeah, this is me. I guess I don't have a question. I'm just having a comment in the sense that having worked with not-for-profits for a number of years and doing different programs within them, I think everything that you identified is relevant for not-for-profits, because you do need to be consistent in your message. You also have to be consistent in your logo. And you are finding volunteers, you're finding funders, you attracting employees, and even in not-for-profits, you have things that you have to sell. So you do need to know what are the pain points, what are the issues that people are facing that you are going to solve for them. And you have to, if you're doing something that's going to be with mental health, you have to identify which part of mental health. If you're doing something that's with education, which part of education. So what's the pain point? What are you going to solve? And that's all part of your branding when you identify yourself as someone who is there to help. And so I know, Freedom, you were asking whether it's the same, and I would say it is, because you still have to think it all through, because really a not-for-profit is a business. And you're meeting a need within the community. And you have to look at it the same way. The only difference is that you may not have as many employees because you might have a lot of volunteers, but your volunteers won't stay if you're not authentic and if what you've put out is the truth. And when they come in, they find that it's different than what they thought they signed up for. It's just like good employees, they'll move elsewhere. So yeah, I guess I'm just saying that, and I guess meet with Eddie because he can help you with the branding, but I think it's all very relevant.
absolutely. And when you have a strong brand, you can actually attract the right partners that align with your vision. You can inspire others. Like your brand can be a movement. So
That's right.
yeah. So when you have a strong brand, then you can actually attract the right partners, and you can attract like other people because you appeal to them at both a rational level and an emotional level.
Yeah. And they'll even approach you if you're out there and you have the wording right, and then that's what I'm looking for, and they'll contact you to see about collaborating and partnering with you.
Absolutely. All right. So yeah. So who would like to go next? I see Jetsul. Please forgive me for not pronouncing your name right. Jetsul.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I was just when you talked about the branding versus marketing, I'm new to this type of thing, happen to do this. But first of all, do you what do you do for consulting? Just get a hold of you, and if you had questions for you, or
Yeah, absolutely. I offer
Yeah,
consulting.
absolutely. I offer consulting. Okay. All right. And that's in the contacts here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, y'all have enlightened me on this meeting, so I do thank you for that. But I don't want to take up time for myself, so I'll figure out a way to contact you then.
Great.
All right, thank you.
All right. All right. So who would like to go next? Anybody else? Wow. If nobody else has any questions, and I'm thinking everyone is crystal clear on what they need to do. Let me see.
It's just that there's so much to do, Eddie, that we
Yeah.
have to think.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So
Eddie,
yeah,
I have a question.
I see Marcel. Who's that? Marcel?
No, well, Katie.
Katie
I'm
Johnson.
sorry, I was up there. I went on the marketing block branding app before I came to the meeting, and it's amazing, by the way. And I I populated the printout, the printout of it. And it gave me some great recommendation, the branding identity, the logo, and it also gave me some recommendations. Is that something I can probably get you to assist me with?
Well, if you have a brand that you're looking to develop, then yeah, I could take a look at, you know, where you currently are. We offer free consults. So if you have a website or any form of, maybe you have a
Yes, I'm doing
campaign
those
or like
things.
some collateral, I could take a look at it and we can talk about it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. So yeah, so I see Marcel Sosu.
Yes, thanks for hosting this meeting, Eddie. One of the questions that I have for you, this was extremely helpful and insightful. However, I still wanted to understand more about on the branding side to ensure that it conveys the because the branding is creative, right? It's let's say around everything that is the output of your creative process, right? There's a logo, it's a set of branding assets that you would use on product access, either product packaging, your website in different mediums, right? Then but how do you like ensure that that branding conveys the message, like the voice of the customer, like or like the voice of the brand, or like how can an experience be expressed through something such as a logo, colors, things like that?
Yeah, well, that's more of like expert opinion. So it's more about just having an expert, just do a review of, your material and, just talking about it.
The courthouse ain't sent nothing yet. I'ma just go log in.
So yeah. I actually have a blog, right? If you take a look at my blog, you would find like lots of helpful content that could really help you to really rethink like your branding and your marketing efforts. So I put it in the chat as well.
Okay, I'll take a look at that.
All right. So yeah, let me see. Anybody else? All right. So yeah, I feel like, I don't see anybody else. So I'm thinking that, I hope you all learned a lot, and it was really nice to have you all come and listen. Feel free to stay in touch. I'll put my link in the chat. Feel free to look at the blog if you want to learn more about branding. So yeah, thanks for coming, and have a great rest of your afternoon.
Where can we download the video, the recording of the call somewhere?
I could send you a copy of the presentation. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome. I'd very appreciate it.
All right then, great. All right. So yeah, thanks y'all for coming, and we'll be in touch. Hope you can make it from our next event.
All right, thank you, Eddie. This is great. Thank you.
All right then, have a great one. Bye-bye.
Ciao, Eddie.
Thanks, Eddie.
Sure, have a great one. Let's see.